Hi, this is Chanel. I hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about perceptions and judgment. And I'm also going to talk about, or I'm going to discuss whether things that we see, things that we experience, our judgments maybe upon other people, or our perceptions about other people, whether they are we seeing this because of, or is this happening because of a lack of knowledge, or is this happening because of poor decision making skills? Okay, so if you see something that's happening and you think to yourself, or maybe you say to someone else, or if you're forward, if you say to this person, why is this happening? Okay, or why did he or she do that? Did they do that because they make poor decisions, because they have poor decision making skills, or did they do this because they didn't know? And I like to start my videos off with story time, okay? And so I want to talk about something personal. About 20 years ago, I was at a store, okay, and I saw this shirt, okay, and the shirt had a combination of the things that I like, which very simple, but it was a black sleeveless shirt. It was like a wife beater. It was a black sleeveless ribbed shirt, okay, and it had diamond embellishments on them. There was a word going across it, well, not a word, but it was anyway. Let's just say that there was lettering going across the front. Okay, so I saw the shirt, I liked it, I purchased it. I didn't know what the letters meant, but they had the little diamonds. There were letters going across in diamonds, and it was so I liked the shirt and I bought it. Okay, and I received attention. I didn't know why. I remember the first time someone said something, or that there were two guys that they were young. I was young as well, but there were two guys. I was out, and one of the men was like, "Oh, I like you." He kind of chuckled a little bit, and he said, "Hey, I like your shirt." I said, "Oh, thank you." Okay, and I just remember getting just a little bit of attention. But I didn't understand why. I didn't know what the letters meant. Okay, and it wasn't until I was at a gathering, and a family member told me, she laughed, and she told she told me what the letters meant. Okay, and the letters on the shirt were, what was it? It was MILF, MILF, MILF. Now, if you know what that is, you know what it is. I didn't know what it was, and I think I was pregnant at the time, and I got it out of the maternity section. Okay, so again, I just got this shirt out of the maternity section at this store. It was a shirt that I liked, and I didn't know what it meant. I didn't think anything of it, but people who knew what it meant, there was a reaction from people who knew what it meant. Okay, so someone told me what it meant, and I was like, oh well, I didn't know that. It's a shirt that I like, so I didn't just stop wearing it. I didn't, because I'm not the type of person who does things or stop doing things just because someone says something. If I like, if I like the shirt, I'm going to wear the shirt. I don't care about, what people think. So, but anyway, I wore the shirt again, and someone told me to watch this a movie. And I watched this movie, and that term MILF was stated in that movie. Okay, even though now someone told me what it meant, I didn't know. I didn't know that it. I'd never heard of the term. I'd never seen those. Those letters put together. I did not know what it meant. I'd never heard anybody use that term at all. So I just had no idea. And then I watched this movie, and I because there was a character in the movie, and someone referred to this lady as that, I had a better understanding of why people reacted the way they did. Okay, so me purchasing the shirt, was it a poor decision making? Did I purchase it because I just made poor decisions, did I just have a lack of knowledge? It was a lack of knowledge. I didn't know what it meant. I'd never heard the term. It was just a shirt that I liked. It was a black ribbed, like I said, shirt with the diamond embellishments going across and so I liked it and I bought it. I did not know what it meant. Okay, so that's one, and I'll give you a second one. Recently, or this past Halloween season, so my son's, I have a 10-year-old, and he was 9 at the time, so his school had a fall festival. Okay, and the kids dressed up in their Halloween costumes, and they had the bounce houses and all of that. Anyway, I take my son to the festival in his costume. Okay, now when my son, I think it's a Roblox or some sort of game character. I'm almost 50. I don't play games. Now, if I know who Mario is, I know I know about the 90s characters, game characters. These characters now, I don't play games. I'm a grown woman. I don't play games. I don't know who these characters are. Okay, so but we go to a store, and my son picks out initially, when I take him to go pick out this costume, initially he says he wants this one particular costume, and it was like half normal looking and half evil looking, and I said, no, I'm not getting that. And I see this other one, and I didn't see anything wrong, looking at the character. I guess, I guess a lot like the shirt. If you don't know what it meant, if you don't know who it is, you just don't know. So the character, so there was, so I told him no to the character he wanted, and I see this other character. I said, oh, hey, here's another one. Now, this character was a pickle. Okay, it was a full pickle costume, and there was a gold necklace. So I didn't think anything of it. It's a costume of a pickle who has a necklace. Okay. So he's like, okay, yeah, I'll take that one. So we get this one, and we go to the school function, and he gets a lot of attention. Now, again, me not knowing who the character is or what the character represented, I didn't know. I didn't think twice about it until I saw his. He was getting a lot of laughs, and different comments were made about the costume. And it wasn't until later on that he told me. Now, he didn't tell me exactly who it was. He told me that the character was after the fact, that the character was actually a bank robber. Okay, now I didn't know this. I see a pickle with a necklace. That's all I know. And so so again, I'm talking about perceptions and judgment. So now, with me as the mother, if other parents or staff members or whoever, if they are aware of who this character was, and they see me, allowing my son to wear this particular costume, now would they, would their perception be, oh, she made a poor decision, or would it be, there's a lack of knowledge? A lot of times people just assume that A lot of times people make assumptions, and I've talked about this before, okay? Many people make assumptions about others, okay? And judgments and false judgments. And again, just like, me in that MILF shirt and my son in the bank robber costume, again with the shirt, I just see a pretty shirt with diamond, embellishments, and then other people, who knew what it meant, saw something else. Okay. With my son in the costume, I saw a pickle, like I said, it's not evil looking. I didn't want my, I don't allow him to wear. Anyway, I just see a pickle with a necklace, okay, not knowing what it represented, okay. There are a lot of people, again, a lot of times we make assumptions about one another, but I want to go a little bit deeper with this conversation. I look at people's decision making, okay, just as a society as a whole, parenting, associates. Some people, there are people who make the decisions that they make. First, I'm going to talk about poor decision making skills, okay, or choices. Some people know better, but they do things just because, okay, for many different reasons, okay. I'm going to first talk about parenting, okay. Honestly, I was going to do a video titled Piss Poor Parenting, okay, and there are, because I'm just very blunt, and there are parents who do things, there are parents who don't support their children. There are parents who are not involved in their children's lives at all. There are parents who deliberately do things to harm their children. There are parents who just refuse to support the parent who does take care of the children. Okay, those are poor decision making skills or choices. Okay, they know better, but they just choose not to do better. Okay, that's poor decision making. However, there are also parents who lack knowledge. Okay, maybe there are parents who just repeat what they've seen. They may have seen their parents, or they may not have seen a good example, and so they repeat what they've seen. Okay, there are parents who want to do better, but maybe they just don't have the support or the knowledge of what to do or how to do better. Okay, I think that especially as a parent, speaking as a parent, it is our decision, or it's our job to look at ourselves and look at the other people in the same arena, again talking about parents, and ask ourselves, how can we do better? How can I fix me so that this next generation doesn't have to so the next generation can be better. Okay. Also, just as a society as a whole, we need to look and see, and it shouldn't be that hard, look and see how, what's wrong and how can we make it better. Okay. Are negative things happening because of poor decision making, or are negative things happening because we're just repeating what we've seen, okay, for generations, for centuries, for whatever the case may be. It's just a repetitive thing, Okay, we're not changing it. We're just repeating what we know. We have to look at, look at ourselves and ask how we can be better. Okay, and then when it comes to perception of others, or to our perception of others, ask why. Understanding the root cause of certain things can help fix it if a person is willing to fix it. But understanding is very important. A lot of people don't have understanding. A lot of people lack understanding. A lot of people don't even have the desire to understand other people's why. Okay? It's important to understand why. The why is the root. Okay? And again, asking yourself or asking other people, is this happening because of poor decision making skills, or is there a lack of knowledge? Okay, is this deliberate? Is this happening? Are these people making this decision deliberately, or is there something else going on? Okay, so I think instead of being so judgmental, we need to ask why, understand why. And again, just try to fix things. Okay. And I'm also going to say this. When it comes to, I talked about assumptions. Okay. One thing, and I talked about the shirt. Okay. So when I wore the MILF shirt, people were saying things a few times. People said things to me, but it wasn't direct. Okay. Now, I'm very direct, and I appreciate direct communication. So when I was wearing the shirt, people probably assumed that I knew what that meant. When my son wore the costume of the people probably assumed that I knew who that character was or what that character did. Okay. Now back to my shirt. Now I appreciated it when the family member said, "Hey, like, do you know what that means?" Okay, because not a lot of people will do that. A lot of people will talk behind your back. A lot of people will chuckle, gather and chuckle and gather and make, comments, or maybe just make a comment and walk off, but not really have a conversation. Okay, and sometimes we have to realize that sometimes things are not always happening deliberately. Some things happen because there is just a lack of knowledge. Okay, and understanding is important. Okay, I mean it's helpful when if you have knowledge, instead of assuming things, ask a question. Ask the question. I've done a video before recently about and I talked about, I gave the example of being a student. Okay, let's say you're in college, or and you're a student and you are in a particular, let's say you're in algebra class and you don't understand this algebra problem. You have a question about this algebra problem. Okay, the thing to do would be to go to the algebra professor and ask the algebra professor about the algebra problem. Okay, but what a lot of people do is, instead of asking the algebra professor about the algebra problem, they'll take that algebra problem to biology class and ask the biology professor about algebra. When you should, at the end of the day, be direct. If you have a question about something or someone, ask that person. Okay, ask that person. Don't go to somebody else and start asking. Don't go to someone else and start, making things bigger than they are. Okay, because 9 times out of 10, that is what happens when people just start making, having conversations about other people or other situations, and instead of going to the person they need to go to, they take it to someone else, it becomes problematic. It becomes a problem when it shouldn't be. So anyway, just be direct. Okay, be direct. Like I said in that video, if you have a question about algebra, ask the algebra teacher. Don't go to biology and ask the biology teacher about the math problem. Okay, be direct with people. Don't make assumptions. Don't go around gossiping about things when again, you can just go ask direct questions. You have a mouth, you use it all the time. Go ask the person that you need to you need to be talking, whoever you're talking about, talk to them. Okay, and that will clear up a lot of false judgments and false perceptions. Okay, and if something needs to change, then you are addressing the situation directly. Okay. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. Bye.